I'm not a professional tile installer. In fact, my videos mostly have a science theme to them. But occasionally I do things like put in porcelain tile floor, ceramic tile floor in our house here that we're remodeling. Just going to share a little bit of some experience I had cutting tile. We've been installing these 12 by 24 tile. They're called Alexandra. You can get them from Home Depot. It's got a matte finish. We happen to like that. One of the problems you have though is they say 12 by 24, but you got to check because these things like this one is just 11 3/4 by 23 3/4. Well, when you're laying down tile end to end and using little spacers, that difference gets magnified. So that's something you have to be aware of. Also, a lot of them had defects embedded in the porcelain surface. We ended up having to take 37 of the original 80 tiles we bought back. It's not Home Depot's fault. It's really the manufacturer. Their quality control wasn't that great. But we liked the look of it, and we went to 4 different Home Depots finding what we wanted. And we're just about to get the floor done, but I thought I would share the issues you can run into trying to cut around an opening like a HVAC duct in the floor. And so we're going to take a look at that. And let me go in there and show you where we're going to put this. Okay, a couple of important points. You definitely need to use personal protection like this N95 dust mask. I prefer an engineering solution, which in this case is just a fan, since we don't have a fume hood to work in, like in a lab. But that blows the dust I'm generating away. I also have a little spray bottle of just water to keep everything damp where I'm working on. It controls the dust quite a bit. Also keeps the temperature of the tile down. Okay, this is our HVAC duct opening in our laundry room floor. I've got tile already put in and mortared into position in these areas here. Now the challenge is cutting a piece of tile that'll fit around this opening. So first thing you want to do is make your lengthwise cut and make sure your edge, in other words, this distance here is obviously less than that. It's about 7 inches or so. This is 12. So you need to split the tile long ways, and then you want to position it with the good edge out here, the cut edge towards the wall. And then you can position your tile in place, and you'll need to mark this opening on the good edge. So in other words, make a long cut first and mark the opening cut on the good original edge. You want a smooth edge, not the cut edge out here. The cut edge can be against the wall. I'd highly recommend one of these tile markers. You can get them from any of the stores like Home Depot or Lowe's, and they're easy to mark the tile with, and they wash right off. Now, I've laid this tile out here. You can see it, and the position is going to have to be up here. So I'll have to mark the edge here. So if you look where I've got this other one, right here, the whole arrow. The arrow is good rather than just a line. A line, you never know exactly where the starting point was, but with an arrow, that does help. Also got to come in here and chisel off stuff like that dry mortar, to get that out of the way. Now, you'll notice I've marked these tile on this edge, but I'm actually going to be cutting this side over here, because I'm going to be splitting this down this way. And so I've got to measure this width here. I usually leave roughly a 1/4 inch near the, well, it'll be covered by the quarter round anyway. And so this one probably needs to be about 6 7/8. And sometimes there's a difference, because this little house, nothing's square, plumb, level, or true. Everything's a trapezoid or some other weird shape. So you just have to do the best you can. I think 6 7/8 will probably work here too. Give us the right gap, about 3/16. And you'll see This spot right here is chipped in that earlier tile. I saved the bad tiles for when I have to cut, because that's going to be covered by the vent. So what we're going to have to do is split this, down this way. Then we're going to cut that notch in this side of it here. Okay, that's where it needs to go. So we got to go out there and measure that on the outside. Okay, this is the tile I just laid out in the laundry room and marked the spots on. That's one edge, and that was the other edge, but I actually need to make the cut over here. So I'm going to use my square here to line that up and transfer those marks basically to this side over here. We'll do the same thing with this one here. And we'll mark that. This time I'm just drawing a line because I know where it is. Which?
I was going to add something else.
Okay, go ahead.
My husband told me that I would not be able to cut a piece of tile because it would keep breaking. So this is my idea, and it worked perfectly. He said I couldn't cut it. Well, I did. It was in the kitchen, and it was real close to the wall. So what I did is I took the tile that I needed to cut, I put it on some tile that I already had, and put drywall mud down, and I let it dry so it would be stable and not move. I was able to cut it out. And then after I had that piece out, all you got to do is soak that tile in a bucket of water, and all that drywall mud will just fall right off. It worked perfectly, perfectly. And of course, I used a Dremel with a diamond bit on it to do it because it was so narrow, and it kept breaking with my husband. So he said I couldn't do it. Well, I did. So that's my advice to you, because, hey, it works. Why? It's proven. I did it. And if you could cut it with that little narrow piece of tile, then you can do it, okay?
Let's go in the kitchen and show them where you cut that. This is the tile that Kim was talking about that she cut out. If you look carefully, this is one continuous piece. Very difficult to do. This was our first tile floor we did, porcelain tile. I broke a bunch of tile trying to do this. Finally, Kim used her idea of gluing it down with some sheetrock mud to give it some sturdiness when she cut it out, and she did it. So that does work. Very tricky trying to keep this from breaking off right here. That piece of tile my wife cut, that was the first floor we done in this house, porcelain tile in that kitchen, and that was a very challenging spot, and I broke a bunch of them, and she was right. She was able to do that. And the problem was it's real narrow pieces. It doesn't take much. All you gotta get is a little bit of heat built up in that tile and it'll crack on you. So she was able to do that. This was not quite as extreme as that. I'm gonna show you this other way I've got of doing this, and I think hopefully that'll help, but I may have to get her out here to do it anyway, but we'll see. So first thing I'm gonna do is make a split lengthwise and use that thing, and we'll give that a try first. Since I'm not a professional tile installer, I'm a little bit limited on tools I have available, but I do have this tile cutter here. Now, these things are great because they're easy to use and there's really no dust involved. You can break a few tile though if you're not careful, but just the way this thing's normally set up for this 12 by 24 tile, for these widthwise cuts, no problem. You can just score it with that little cutting wheel and take the scoring wheel out of the picture and break it very easily. The problem I had was with this all the way back and trying to cut a lengthwise 24-inch tile won't fit. So what I have to do is take out this little block here, Now with that out, this will fit, but you have to be careful. And still, I can't score it all the way across because I get down to the end and it doesn't go all the way to the end. So what I have to do, I'm not going to do it on this one because this is a good tile and I don't want to make a cut I don't need. But score it as much as I can, then flip the tile around the other way. Be very careful how to line it up and line it up so that where I'm scoring it is on top of where the previous score is. Now all I really need to do is score this part right down here and then that'll work. And I was able to use that. And it's much better than using that diamond saw because that generates all that dust. For nice long straight cuts, this is what you need to use. So what I'm going to do is score that as far as I can, and then we'll turn it around, try to get the last little bit, and try to cut it. So line up this spot here best I can, and so it's important that this little scoring wheel down here, I can show you, see it down there underneath that, it's got to fall right in that previous cut, the previous score mark, or I end up with a big problem. Okay, it's not going to focus right, but it looks like it's right in it. So we'll give it a try because I got to score this little part right here. Now, got to get this up out of the way. I have to raise and lower that depending where I'm cutting or breaking. I'll put this down here. See what happens. Well, let's look at it. Okay, so this is the part we got to remove. This right here. So what I'm going to do is not use this. That would be very difficult to try to do that. Use this angle grinder. I call it a side grinder. Now, I would highly recommend you get yourself a good diamond blade that's not serrated. It's just smooth, but got grit on the sides. One thing you'll have to watch for, all these things can cause issues when you're cutting into the tile. You don't want to generate heat. I found this to be much easier to use than this type of composite grit material here. And so I've got a diamond blade in here now. It's worth spending the money, get a good one. And what we're going to do is just first make some scoring cuts all along here. And then I'm going to make these type of cuts in this way, several of them. And then we'll try to finish it off up here. We'll see how that works. And I'm going to use the fan to blow the dust away, use my water bottle, and hopefully it'll work if I have to do this all over again. Okay, I've got the fan on. I'm also going to wear hearing protection, cut-proof gloves, and safety glasses. Cutting a kerf a little wider than the saw blade helps prevent transverse forces from breaking your pieces. And go slow and careful. Making multiple shallow cuts rather than trying to do it all at once is the best way to go. Having the fan on and keeping it wet really helps control the dust. If you don't have that as an option, you can use a dust mask. Nice thing about the fan is when you're working outside, it just blows it out away from you in the house. And just wearing a dust mask, you end up with dust all over you, so you're still exposed to it when you take the mask off. But anyway, go slow and careful. Multiple shallow cuts really makes it a lot better. You get used to this, you can maybe do it with less cuts, but I found I'm still a beginner at this, I'm not a professional, so this worked pretty well. Okay, it looks like we got it right. Let's see if the vent cover fits in there okay. Looks good. Now all we got to do is mortar it in place. This is our finished laundry room floor, and as you can see, we're using it. Have the washer and dryer back in here. There's still molding work to do around the baseboard, some other stuff. Kim did most of the grouting, which she did an excellent job on. She's very artistic and it worked out real well. I've got an oak transition piece ordered for that right there, because that's quite a bit of, well, it's not real big, but we'll put an oak transition piece similar to what we did here in the bathroom. So it turned out pretty good, and hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it and subscribe. Check out our other videos, we'd really appreciate it.